Hello everyone, and welcome back. I'm Max Allo, and hope you had a very merry Kaiju Crushmas. Today, we're going to be talking about Battra. I really have no clever, quippy segues into this. We are talking about probably one of my favorite Kaiju that was actually added in the Heisei era. Because for all intents and purposes, Battra is more or less a good guy. Though he does fall much more into the anti-hero category. As a dark counterpart to Mothra, he is very much to Mothra as, say, Venom is to Spider-Man. A much more aggressive and violent protector of the world, but a protector nonetheless. What distinguishes him from his much more friendly counterpart is he has absolutely zero qualms with wiping out humanity, and, if anything, seems to prefer to wipe out humanity, viewing them as nothing more than a blight upon the Earth which he protects, whereas Mothra is more of a gentle guardian and guide for humanity to go to a better path, without the omnicide capabilities. This makes sense, as Battra was spawned quite literally out of humanity in the past, creating a weather control machine, and the Earth creating Battra to stop this violation of nature, to reestablish order. But before we get into all the juicy details on the armored destruction moth deity himself, don't forget to subscribe for more, comment your thoughts below on Battra, and would you like to see him in the Monsterverse? But that is more or less Battra's origin. He was created out of the reaction from the Earth due to a past humanity 12,000 years ago, harnessing nature and essentially controlling all of Earth's natural processes. To reestablish nature, Battra was created. However, going well beyond his created purpose to destroy the weather control machine, he turned violent and destructive, seeking to eradicate all of humanity. Mothra, who was sympathetic to humanity, fought and defeated Battra, laying him to rest in the North Seas in the ice shelf. Wherein, in the modern day, or at least the modern day back when the movie came out, Battra was reborn, returned to his Whereas in the modern day, or at least the modern day at time of the movie being created, Battra had returned to life as a larval form. Unlike Mothra herself, this is actually the exact same Battra. Meaning, either one of two things happened. Battra is actually immortal, and even though Mothra originally game-ended him, he was able to resurrect himself, or, with a sort of resurrected immortality, or, more, and this is what I like to lean on, that Mothra did not actually game-end Battra, rather inflicted enough injury on him that a regenerative healing factor, or was able to put him in a suspended animation, possibly in hopes that Battra would lose his violent tendencies and become a better creature. After all, a theme of Mothra, as we discussed in her video, is very much redemption. So, regardless of really which avenue is taken, Battra did revert to his larval form. And immediately upon waking up after a meteor struck Earth and unleashed him, he went right back to going to destroy humanity. However, his instincts to protect Earth above all else kicked in, and he dueled Godzilla, though not without seeking to be aggressive against Mothra. And even as a larval form, he was capable of holding his own against the King of the Monsters. This is largely due, unlike Mothra, in his larval form, he does have a much more offense-geared toolkit. The Prism Beams, two different varieties of them. The Orange Electrical Blasts, which he fires from his horn, and Purple Eye Lasers, both of which are referred to as the Prism Beams. These don't seem to have much of a fine aiming and rather just go in pretty much every which direction. He can also fire a massive energy pulse out of his horn as another attack in his larval form. Upon his metamorphosis into his imago form, he has actually lost his horn prism beam, instead being replaced with much more powerful and much more precise optical prism rays. Similar to Mothra, he is capable of discharging energy blasts from his feet as he uses this against Godzilla, but this is mostly shown in the manga adaptation of Godzilla vs. Mothra, The Battle for Earth. And befitting his much more combat-oriented nature as opposed to Mothra, he is significantly more up-armored. he is capable of taking several direct blasts from Godzilla's atomic ray, whereas traditionally, one blast of this, or really any energy-based beam from any kaiju, is capable of easily putting Mothra down. While Battra is not outright immune to this, it did take several blasts before Battra was knocked out even as a larval form, and ultimately, this is what proved to be a fatal blow against Battra at the end of Godzilla Mothra: The Battle for Earth. Though this was only after Godzilla tore a huge chunk out of Battra's neck, causing him to bleed and exposing a massive weak point, where the atomic ray, fired right at the neck wound, ended up ending Battra. Though it did take several seconds for the full gravity of this injury to take effect, showing that Battra is a very resilient creature, though he is far from invincible. Now, while Battra has appeared in several different and various incarnations of Godzilla, he has only appeared in one movie. He appeared in several Godzilla fighting video games, and was mentioned in the Godzilla anime trilogy novels, where his role was actually very similar to his role within Godzilla vs. Mothra: The Battle for Earth, awakening and actually going out to protect Earth from the Gorath meteor. And much like in Godzilla vs. Mothra, he was game-ended by Godzilla. I actually always really liked him, because he's got a much more aggressive design than Mothra. Mothra, again, there's a certain appeal to Mothra's very nice and soft and friendly design. But just, Battra just looks so much more aggressive. It looks more like a monster. Because Mothra does, to a degree, kind of feel a bit out of place in Godzilla movies in terms of just pure design. It's bright, it's colorful. Contrast that with really the generally darker color scheme of most kaiju, really with the exception of King Ghidorah. And he's kind of always been a personal favorite of mine, and I think a part of that was because I actually didn't see Godzilla vs. Mothra: Battle for Earth for a very, very long time, so it was kind of like this unicorn movie that I really always wanted to see, and didn't get to see until relatively recently, comparative to when I started watching the Godzilla movies. I mean, I've seen it for like a decade now, but like, it was one of the last Godzilla movies I ever saw. And there's a bit of an interesting parallel between, of all things, the Monsterverse and the original incarnation of Battra. The original Battra is, of course, a counterpart, a much darker counterpart to Mothra. Mothra is almost pure benevolence, and is a guide to humanity, whereas Battra is the destroyer and punishing humanity for its wickedness. This is actually not that different from the relationship between Godzilla and Mothra in the Monsterverse. Now, it is not exactly a one-to-one matchup, and I actually think that this wasn't intentional on the creator's part. But it is just a fun and interesting parallel, though it does unfortunately kind of spell a little bit of doom for a personal thought I would have had, which is, I was hoping Battra would be one of the next Monsterverse monsters. Because of this, I don't realistically see this, because in the Monsterverse, Godzilla is aggressive. He will go and fight humanity when we step out of line. However, unlike Battra, he does actively protect humanity as well, only punishing us when we really deserve it. But again, that could also probably open the door for Battra to exist, because Battra could simply not have that restriction of he will protect humanity when humanity is not doing anything wrong, rather just always destroy. Apologies that this video was a bit of a shorter one than usual. There really is not that much to talk about with regards to Battra. I did mention him a little bit in the Mothra video, and I will be probably linking the Mothra video somewhere here. Recommend checking that one out. And that's largely because even in his debut movie, he is much more of a side kaiju character as opposed to Mothra, who takes the main spotlight, and Godzilla, who is, well, it's his series. I'd like to see him in more stuff. What about you? I've been Max Allo. I will see you guys next time, and once again, hope you had a very merry Kaiju Crushmas. Long live the Kaiju King.